40% of new executives fail in the first 18 months, not because they lack competence, because they lose respect before they establish frame. And once frame is lost, authority doesn't recover. Your team stops listening. They push back on your decisions and they second guess your judgment. And it all started the moment you walked in dysregulated. If you're new here, my name is Eduardo Perez. For over 15 years, I worked in environments where the cause of a dysregulated nervous system carry life-altering consequences. With that knowledge, I help senior leaders regulate their nervous system under pressure. Today, I'm going to show you three things. Why most new leaders lose respect in the first interaction, not the first month. The nervous system mechanism that causes team to mirror your instability. And the 5-part protocol for establishing frame from day one. Here's what most leadership advice gets wrong. They tell you respect comes with time. It doesn't. Respect is established in the first 30 seconds of an interaction. Your team isn't evaluating your experience or your competence. They're scanning for stability. Can you hold frame under pressure? Can you maintain your baseline when they don't? Can you stay positioned without seeking validation? If you can't, they categorize you as unstable. An unstable leader doesn't command respect. They earn compliance at best and resentment at worst. So let me show you what that looks like. You're a new director, first team meeting, you walk in, and you want to establish authority. So you start talking. You explain your vision, your priorities, your expectations, and you think you're being clear and thorough. But your team is reading something else entirely. See, your voice is slightly elevated, your pacing is fast, and you're feeling every silence. You say, I'm really excited to work with you all, and I know you're probably wondering what changes are coming, so let me walk you through everything. And immediately, your team flags it. Not because of what you said, because of the state you were in when you said it. You were managing your own anxiety about being accepted, not establishing authority. And your team detected that instantly because teams don't follow words, they follow nervous systems, and yours to signal instability. Here's what's happening underneath that behavior. When you walk into a leadership role activated, anxious about being respected, seeking validation, or trying to prove yourself, you signal low status before you even stated a position. Your team mirrors your nervous system state. If you're dysregulated, they become cautious. If you're approval seeking, they become skeptical. And if you're defensive, they become resistant. And all this is not even conscious, it's automatic. Your nervous system sets the emotional temperature of the room, and if that temperature is instability, your team won't follow you. Many think respect comes from what you say in that first meeting, but it doesn't. It comes from how regulated they are when they say it. Because your team is scanning for one thing: can this person operate under pressure? If the answer is no, respect erodes immediately, not over months, over seconds. Now, here's where most leadership training get this wrong. They tell you to be confident, to be assertive, to be clear. But none of that works if your nervous system is in approval seeking state. Because confidence performed from dysregulation doesn't land as authority, it lands as compensation. Your team doesn't think they're confident, they think they're trying to convince us they're confident. And that gap between what you're performing and what your system is broadcasting is what destroys credibility. This is where some directors walk into a room and immediately get taken seriously, while others spend months trying to earn it. It's no experience, it's not seniority, it's nervous system regulation. The leaders who command respect aren't performing authority, they're operating from it, and their teams detect that stability immediately. In counterintelligence operations, we're trained to establish frame before we establish rapport. Because in high stakes environments, if you lose frame in the first interaction, the entire operation is compromised. Let me be specific here. In my world, if I walked in to meet a potential asset for the first time and I start seeking approval, trying to build rapport before I establish control, the asset will detect that instability. They're going to test boundaries, they're going to push back, and they're going to withhold cooperation. Not because I said anything wrong, because my nervous system signaled I was seeking validation instead of operating from authority. See, operators are taught that frame precedes rapport. You establish control of the interaction first, then you build relationship, not the other way around. Because if you're seeking validation before you establish position, you already compromise your authority. The same principle applies to leadership. Your team needs to know you're stable before they'll respect you. And stability isn't about what you say, it's about the state you're in when you say it. So let me walk you through the 5-step process to establish frame from day one. Step 1, model regulation before you expect it. See, your team mirrors your nervous system. If you walk in anxious, they're going to become cautious. If you walk in seeking approval, they become skeptical. The first thing your team evaluates isn't your ambition, it's your stability. So before your first interaction, assess your own baseline, your heart rate, your breathing pattern, your muscle tension. Because if you walk in dysregulated, everything you say will be filtered through that instability. In high risk operations, we assess baseline before we engage. Not as a nice to have, but as an operational protocol. Because if your baseline is unstable, your read of the environment will be inaccurate. The same applies to leadership. If you're activated when you walk in, your team will mirror that activation. And activated teams don't follow, they resist. So regulate first, establish authority second. Now, if you're watching this and you realize that your nervous system has been undermining your authority, I created something that can help. It's called a presence audit, and it's a diagnostic framework that shows you exactly where your regulation breaks down under pressure and the specific protocol to fix it. Step 2, state position first, process second. Most new directors walk in and immediately start explaining their background, their vision, their approach. And they think they're building credibility, but they're not. They're signaling that they need validation before they can lead. Walk in, state your position. Here's what we're prioritizing. Here's the standard. Then stop talking. Don't justify it. Don't over explain. Don't seek buy in preemptively. State your position and hold frame under silence. That's how authority is established. Step 3, enforce accountability without emotional charge. Inconsistent enforcement destroys frame faster than any other leadership mistake. Because every time you let something slide, you signal that standards are negotiable based on your comfort level. If someone misses a deadline, you address it, not because you're frustrated, because the standard exists. No anger, no resentment, no justification. The deadline was clear, it wasn't met, and here's what happens next. And that neutrality is what creates respect, not strictness, not warmth. Consistency delivered from a grounded state. Step 4, own mistakes without defensiveness. The fastest way to lose respect isn't making a mistake, it's defending it. Because defensiveness signals that your identity is attached to being right. And when your identity is attached to being right, feedback registers as threat. In post-operation debrief, errors are acknowledged without justification. If the assessment was incorrect, we adjust protocol because accountability delivered from a regulated state reinforces authority. It demonstrates that your identity isn't tied to being right. It's tied to being effective, and the same applies to leadership. You make a bad call, you own it. I miscalculated the timeline, that's on me. But here's how we're adjusting. Not perfection, but stability under failure. Step 5, show care without losing groundedness. So your team needs to know that you're invested in their success. But care delivered from an unstable state isn't leadership, it's codependence. See, most new directors oscillate. They're either too firm and emotional unavailable, or too invested and unable to maintain standards. Both signal instability. So you can be invested in their development without being destabilized by their reactions. You can deliver feedback without needing their agreement. You can hold standards without emotional charge. Care is only credible when it's delivered from a stable baseline. If you're caring because you need validation, they're gonna sense it. If you're enforcing because you're threat primed, they'll sense that too. But if you're both clear and grounded, they're gonna follow you. Not because you're warm, but because you're stable. So what does this make you? Not just a leader, but a regulated leader. And regulated leaders don't seek approval before establishing frame. They don't justify before stating a position. And they don't enforce inconsistently. They model the standard. They own their mistakes. They stay grounded when the team isn't. That's what respect looks like. Not authority through dominance, authority through regulation. See, 60% of new managers fail because they lose frame in the first interaction. Regulate first, establish frame second. Your team doesn't follow your title, they follow your nervous system. If you want to know where your nervous system is undermining your authority and get the exact protocol to fix it, apply for a presence audit. This is the diagnostic framework I use with senior leaders to identify regulation breakdowns and rebuild frame integrity.